Very, very warm welcome to our podcast, brought to you by Michael Glanville Executive Coaching. And I've got the, as I always say, absolute privilege of interviewing Dom Humphries, local businessman, owner of an amazing food and beverage restaurant, has taken the business through COVID, 10 years in business, I believe. So this is going to be an incredible journey of development and self-awareness and building your business and just learning from the lessons from Dom. So Dom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello.
I'm going to start off with where it all began. So you didn't just decide one morning you were going to go and run a pub.
No. Pub work was actually what put me through university. I slung pints at my Students' Union bar.
Well done.
At Portsmouth, doing marine environmental science. So I'm not using my degree apart from the liquids in any way, shape or form.
Wow. Okay, so marine environmental science, and then you decided that the pub game was for you.
I took a year, thought I'd get a bit of management experience and applied to Wetherspoons.
Nice.
They had a couple of sites in Portsmouth. I had a big friend group down there, so decided to take almost a gap year. That turned into a 15-year career.
Amazing. Yeah. That's really, really good. Okay, and so you, about 10 years ago, you decided you were going to buy or start building your first pub, which is just down the road. So it's a very, very local business. Tell us a little bit about the build journey, you know, just starting from scratch and building something, you know.
So, I left a 15-year career with Wetherspoons to go to another business in town for a private operator. That relationship didn't work, but it taught me a lot of things and it sort of motivated me to take that next step from going from a very corporate background to an independent to actually doing it myself. So myself and my business partners spent most evenings and weekends around other jobs, sort of building, knocking down walls, plumbing, getting people who were better at those things than us, and decorating. And we opened the townhouse on the 6th of November 2015.
Wow. And so what did you do about sort of building a client base? I mean, obviously it's a local town, but there's an awful lot of businesses that you were in competition with. What was your USP? What made you decide?
The clues in the name, we decided we'd try and create somewhere that wasn't attracting to one demographic or one style of food or product mix. That it was somewhere that could be used on a day-to-day basis, be used singly on your own doing some out of office work, waiting for a haircut or a child to go to a club or scouts or those sorts of things. But somewhere that was friendly and offered something a little bit different, and that was using independent local brewers against sort of the Fullers, the Wetherspoons, and now places like the Lounges in Petersfield, which have national contracts and the ability to go and buy beer that's made in Petersfield in the recent new opening, and some of the brilliant breweries that have been around over the last 10 years. It means you get those relationships and just try different things, and different local suppliers.
And keeping business local. And did you have a particular target demographic? You know, you wanted to target a particular customer type, or was it at the beginning? Was it just anyone who could walk through the door? Really,
it is absolutely for anyone that can walk through the door. There are little concessions where I don't own a shot glass in either of the businesses because of that experience with sort of the big corporate thing. But no, it's absolutely for anybody. And I think once you walk through the door, your income, your upbringing, and your own views are all brought to one point, and it should be the ability to have lucid conversation and debate and make friends of people outside of your social group. And that's what I've seen. Some brilliant groups of people coming together for all sorts of reasons. That's
really nice. And the pub game is a tough gig. I mean, it's a tough margin game. And you've had inflationary pressures, you've had changes in brewers, you've had all sorts of, and the latest changes in, the economy and there's a budget coming up. So,
sure.
Other changes as well. What do you think's been the toughest challenges really in trying to just keep the lights on, I suppose?
There's always a constant pressure, and I think the way around it is constant evolution. If you stay still, you will stagnate. The biggest pressures have been staying relevant more than anything. There's a lot of competition in the town, and that's a good thing. It makes everyone pull their socks up and make sure that the place is fresh and the environment's good and that the service is brilliant and the staff are friendly and the products are the right ones. And so that constant innovation is how you overcome, yes, a million pressures. I think the biggest one is the lockdowns. It changed habits of people, and it certainly brought a whole new demographic. my children will get to go and socialise in a pub right the way through around their 18th birthday. And there's a whole generation that wasn't able to have that with their families and their friends. And that's been a different way of working, just sort of the education of the social environment of a public house.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because, I mean, most of the podcasts, we sort of touch on COVID, but only around the edges. But I think, for you, it's really worth, if you don't mind, diving in a little bit more because, the pubs and restaurants were probably the most significant, or certainly leisure trade was significantly affected by COVID. I mean, how did you sort of navigate that challenge, I suppose?
I think when Boris first came on the television, we all sort of sunk a pint and said goodbye to the place. That's how we thought it was. And I think after a couple of days of reflection, we evolved. I became a delivery driver. Invested in some litre bottles of beer and would tie in with the local takeaways, the Indians, and those sorts of things. And within 5 minutes, people would have delivered food on their doorstep and some fresh beer. You've never seen faces with such big smiles that they can have a beer. But again, it's constant innovation. We built a web shop. I was doing takeaway food. I spent that time renovating the building. We found a fireplace behind the wall. So there was always something to be done. Obviously, there was help for our industry, more so than some others, with loans and those sorts of things. It made us leaner.
And presumably, most of the work was just you within the business, or you and your family at that time.
Yeah, the rest of the team was furloughed, so it was me, which was a reason to leave the house. And the dog got a lot of walks down to work to make those sorts of things. But yeah, you I've responsibilities to the landlord of the building to pay rent. There are VAT concessions. There needs to be a company to pay people. So there's a responsibility to eke through. And yeah, we made it.
Yeah, and you obviously feel passionate about that. I mean, because you're a family man as well, you're trying to balance running businesses and being a local important entrepreneur and manage your family, and that's pretty tough with the hours that you have to work.
It can be, yeah. There are concessions. I don't see the family that much at the weekends, but we make up for it during the week as a family. It's always been my lifestyle, so it's not been so much of an issue. But yeah, now the children are a little bit older. One of them works for us. She may have made you a coffee on a Saturday at the townhouse. But putting those skills of work ethic into the children is important. I'm not going to advise them to follow me into the trade. I think they'll find their own way. It's been a journey and it's been fun.
One of the big things about the pub trade is staffing, and every business that I ever speak to, there is always a challenge with staffing, not just recruitment and developing people, but also retaining and building a culture. What do you think are the sort of really important aspects of finding the right people?
In our trade, absolute individuals. A wall full of vending machines would serve the purpose of serving someone a drink. I think you come and pay a premium in a nice environment, which is down to me. The product might be down to me, but that interaction of that person that says, "Hi, how can I help?" and says goodbye as you leave, that is down to that individual. And I've been blessed, actually. I think the average length of service of my team is about 5 years. And that's part of, there's trust in those individuals. They are the face of the business. They work more hours than me. Some of them work longer days than me. And without them, this wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So there is a massive thanks to them for helping create what we have.
Yeah. And that creates a really nice culture and feeling about the place for customers when they come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. Happy team and a little bit of ownership of the business. They have their own roles and they hopefully feel valued in achieving those and rewarded. And those people are important to the place, because I go back to places for the waiter, for the bartender, that interaction, that's sort of a glimmer of recognition or a nice to see you again. That sort of interaction really is the reward for paying a premium when you go to a hospitality business.
Interesting. And in some ways, so thinking about the product, I suppose, in some ways there's been quite an evolution over the last few years, particularly in some some areas, some sectors, in a move towards lower alcohol or zero alcohol. How do you think that's going to impact the pub trade more widely, but as as individual businesses like you?
It's a massive part of the business now. I mean, I have a permanent zero alcohol draft line, which even 2 years ago I wouldn't even contemplate it. We probably had one product in the fridge for the driver.
Yeah.
I myself will have a low ABV or a zero alcohol during the week. I might have a couple of pints at the weekend. So habits have changed, and the younger generation isn't drinking as much, and that's down to the sort of fallout of the last 5 years and socialising in pubs. I think it's a market that is massively untapped. I think you'll see big innovations. You see big celebrity endorsements for zero alcohol products. Therefore, it is a fashionable choice as well. Some really good marketing from some of the big guys, things like Guinness Zero, which you can't get hold of in the trade because they've done so well in merchandising a brilliant product.
It's probably one of the best.
Absolutely, flavour-wise. I mean, it's as close as anything I've ever had.
So that's really interesting. So in a way, from the pub in its own right will always have is your view, I suppose, the social elements. There'll always be the attractiveness of being able to go out and have a drink. It won't really matter what the choice is. If it ends up being a zero, there just needs to be a balance available to the customer.
10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that a big percentage of my takings is a coffee. During the day. So pubs have evolved from being open 12 till 3 and 6 till 10 or something like that, to all-day businesses. And there's not a single pub in the town that doesn't have a coffee offer, a cake or a light lunch for business meetings, for people socialising, for people catching up with friends, and then moves into that sort of bar culture in the evenings. But yeah, coffee's a big part of the business, soft drinks are. It's not just about a pint in a pub anymore. It's a very, very, very different trade to 20 odd years ago when I started.
I was talking to a food supplier a few weeks ago, and he was saying that the wholesale price of coffee has absolutely gone through the roof. Certainly, what he's been buying. So, how do you sort of constantly evolve your margins, knowing that you are not going to almost turn your customers away? Because if the price is going up all the time, it becomes more difficult for people, I suppose, thinking about, am I going to go out and have a coffee, or am I going to have a coffee at home? Have you found a perfect model, or?
No, not at all. I've used the same supplier for my coffee beans since we started, and that's because it is a very good product. It's not a cheap product. There are cheaper versions, and I could squeeze the margins, but I don't think I'd be delivering something better than you could make at home if we scrimped on the quality of the product. I think that's an important thing. I drink a lot of coffee. I've got big industrial coffee machines in both my businesses, a very good one at home, and I'm quite sure that if it's not good enough, I won't go back to somewhere. So I think you need to deliver a premium product, because it is.
And customer experience is obviously really critical to you. Do you use the sort of online feedback systems like TripAdvisor? And do you find them of value to kind of understand what your customers are thinking?
Absolutely. They're a snapshot of someone's experience, and whether I feel that that's the right thing or not, that's their experience. And I think it's important to take that on board. Whether that's a recent one was that they were too cold with that cold snap last week. We reacted quite quickly to make that better. But a customer's expectation measured against what we deliver sometimes isn't exactly what we think we are. And you use that feedback to improve or address things or tweak them slightly to make them more attractive, perceived as better value or better value.
Which drives more footfall and hopefully makes the business more successful. That's brilliant. So it's not that long ago, I think probably just a handful of years ago, you moved into the building that we're in now, which is obviously another pub in the chain. Did you call it Quirky Pubs? Is that your business's name? How did you come up with the name before I dive into the new place?
Just to be a little bit different, just to rather than go with the big corporate sort of side of things, was to say, look, we do things a little bit differently. We're innovative. We can react because of the size of the business to customers' needs, suggestions a lot quicker than some of the big corporate things. Back in my big chain days, it would take 30 days to get a new product onto the shelves. I can try it the same day. And that's based on, just putting a Zulo on the wine list here at Annie Jones because I spent a few days in Spain and went, why have I never done that? And that's now on the list.
That's great. And so Annie Jones is the name of the newer place. It was obviously in business before, closed down. A lot of local people, were sorry to see it go.
Yeah.
What was the trigger for you to say, actually, I'm going to open this place up. I'm going to start a chain?
Well, not so much a chat. I mean, it's a conscious, very different to the townhouse. Yeah. But Annie Jones is an institution. It's been part of the town for almost 35 years now. Yeah. Started in the room we're sat in now as a tiny little restaurant without an alcohol license. There used to be an odd bins up the road where people would run off to.
And bring your own sort of thing.
Yeah. Which they have many brilliant stories over the years. I've been told by people sort of stealing landlords' wine and things like that. The mainstay this was my escape place. This was where my wife and I would come and hide out in the garden on a weekend and have that debrief of how's your week been going, and we missed it. And I think the town missed what is an institution. They unfortunately were a casualty of COVID. Footfall just didn't sustain the business. And it sat empty for a while. And we thought, let's give it a go. There was a lot more than we thought to do to the building. But that's what happens with older buildings. I think we created something quite nice. It seems to be well perceived by people. We've tweaked things over the last 2.5 years. My vision at the beginning wasn't quite what customers are after. So you evolve, and that's a constant thing.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's obviously successful. So do you balance the two, when you're looking at your profit and loss, are you looking at the two businesses separately? Do you look
Separately,
at it all together? Yeah.
So they're very different
animals. Does one perform better than the other, or?
Takings wise, yes. But margins, the products are very, very different. The Annie Jones is only open 5 days a week. And mostly evenings. It's only open a couple of daytimes, whereas the townhouse is a 9 till 9 every day business. So they're quite different animals. The townhouse is a coffee shop during the day, which turns into a bar. Annie Jones is a restaurant with a cocktail bar attached. So they're quite different. The margins are different. This is very labour intensive because it's a scratch kitchen. The brigade in that kitchen really do create everything from scratch, and we do at the townhouse as well. But it's a very different style of food. So. They're both independently good at what they are, but the margins are massively different, and the labour investment is as well.
And what did you call it? A scratch kitchen? I've not heard that.
So the team will make everything from scratch.
That's fantastic.
They don't purchase anything. We use local suppliers for all of our dishes, but there aren't any sort of bought-in stocks and sauces. There isn't a microwave in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We don't use that.
Fresh.
We don't make it that way. And I think when you pay a premium for something, you should be able to taste the difference.
Yeah, you want it to be a value. So, in business for 10 years, there are inevitably, COVID aside, there have inevitably been some really high highs and probably some low lows. What would you say was the highest high?
Personally, things like the Chen has been in the Good Beer Guide for the last 8 years. And managing to continue to do that, which it was a good indicator for me that we're perceived and it's measurable that we deliver a good pint of beer. That's the mainstay of the business. I think that's important. And we all know a place that we won't go to because the beer is not quite where you think it should be. So that's a good thing for me. The local business awards, winning some of those over the last few years has been a good indicator that we're respected in what we do, and hopefully that the people that come and have voted for that are able to come and give us feedback to constantly evolve and be better.
Yeah. All right. And what about the lowest low? Maybe there hasn't been any.
There's been many ups and downs. Losing my entire kitchen team to a competitor in town in one go was a big shock, and that was a money thing. Someone took my entire team and they all gave me a week's notice on the same day, which really fundamentally caused problems for the business.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because any decent chef to recruit would at least work a month's notice for their current employer. So I found the business without a food offer for a significant amount of time, which was a struggle.
Yeah, I bet.
With the way that the place worked, and it certainly put some pressure on the team to drive sales in a different way to keep the lights on. That was a big change.
Yeah, well, part of the journey, but a bit of a challenge in itself. So what's next for Quirky Pubs?
No more businesses in Petersfield. I think 2's more than enough. We are coming into our third Christmas here at Annie Jones. It's going to be an eye-opener, I think. We've tweaked over the last couple of years. I think we over-egged ourselves and got it wrong for some people in our first year. Tried to do too much too soon. So it's taken a couple of years to level ourselves out. I think we've got the offer right. But moving forward, there isn't a plan really until the children are off to university and things. There's a couple of years. There's not anything massive on the agenda. No.
But that's okay. No, that's absolutely fine. Keep growing the businesses that you've got.
Absolutely.
Keep doing great things for the community, and that's really good. So you mentioned Christmas there. So this will go out just after Christmas, but as we're coming into the Christmas period, that's obviously really key, critical trading time. Yeah. What percentage of the year's revenue will you take over Christmas? What
20% of the year's take.
20%. Yeah.
So
it's a really important.
Huge
time.
And it's a really important time for all of our customers. You know, they're out celebrating with friends, family, work, and we need to deliver on that. I mean, you know, messing up someone's Christmas do is just not an option. Because that then creates a bad memory for that entire team for the rest of their year. You know, their celebration wasn't as good as it should have been. Their reward from their boss, their manager, probably is a little bit tainted. So big pressure to get that right. Yeah. So we've gone quite limited on the amount that we're doing, and I've been very organised in contacting people to make sure that we deliver.
It's all about quality.
100%.
Every business leader says the same thing. It's all about quality. It's all about customer experience. It's what will drive kind of growth, which is really good and very important. So remember that, everybody. A question that I always ask my interviewees is, what message would you give viewers and listeners of our podcast about getting into business, the highs and lows, your experiences? What would be your message?
Believe in what you think you can create. I think in my early days, I definitely spent too much time taking input from others, and very, very quickly I realised that I was diluting what the vision was. And what I found is that yes, my viewpoint can change, and my product range and the way I approach things is different, but there is a vision. And I think if you see that is your USP or your business opportunity, that don't lose sight of that, because you can be diluted far too quickly by outside influences. But don't be scared to change if you've got it wrong. Yeah,
be agile.
Yeah,
fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, then click our subscribe button. You can pick us up on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. There are loads and loads of brilliant podcasts there, meeting amazing leaders on their journey to success. You are now listed as one of the amazing leaders, which of course you were before. But thank you for coming and talking to us. And see you in the next podcast.